And we are live. It's another edition of DT Live. It is Sunday, June 10th. It's a Sunday evening here in the U.S. I've just the end of another long day here. I've got my evening beverage here, and tonight I think I'm going to do an installation and first look of Gecko Linux 150. Gecko Linux 150 was just released yesterday or the day before. I actually downloaded the ISO yesterday. I'm just now getting around to taking a look at it today, though. I got a couple people already in the chat. Mr. F was here early, 23 minutes early, it looks like. Lamarck, I tried to download Gecko Linux Budgie, but it isn't available. Alger, OpenSUSE is so annoying to install codecs, proprietary drivers, and stuff that you needed to create Gecko Linux. LMAO. Joel, hey DT, how's it going? How's it going, Joel? Good to see you. Eris says, hello DT. Lamarck, hello. Mark Yates says, Gecko. Alright, so yeah, there's no Budgie edition for it yet. I'm actually taking a look at distrowatch.com here. Let me go ahead and pull up a browser here. So I'm at DistroWatch. Looking at the release here, they had basically two ISOs here on DistroWatch's release announcement. It was static Cinnamon, so based on OpenSUSE Leap with the Cinnamon desktop, and rolling Cinnamon, so that's based on OpenSUSE Tumbleweed with the Cinnamon desktop. I did rolling Cinnamon, so we're going to take a look at the Gecko Linux based on the Tumbleweed branch and using the Cinnamon desktop. And back to the chat for a second. Jonathan Clark is in the chat. He says, hey there DT. Hey everyone, I've used Gecko. I think it was LXQt. So the LXQt version of Gecko, very cool. Alex says hi. How you doing, Alex? GNU Linux says hello from Brazil. Awesome. Mark Yates, I hear only good things. OpenSUSE did not work for me after install. It wouldn't boot properly, so it didn't pass my stability test. Yeah. Let's see. LXQt seems pretty good. Yes, it does. Pretty excited what the future holds for the LXQt desktop environment. Stephen Anderson, good evening. Just installed Ubuntu Mate 1804 LTS. Very cool. That seems to be like the edition of Ubuntu. If you're not going to run mainline Ubuntu, seems like everybody recommends Ubuntu Mate. Matter of fact, you could argue that maybe Ubuntu Mate should be the flagship edition of Ubuntu. I could make that argument. And Jonathan says, I liked it, Alex. Ben Fitzpatrick, he says hi. How you doing, Ben? Yeah, people seem to like Gecko better than even OpenSUSE. Well, yeah, I mean, if Gecko's trying to improve upon OpenSUSE, I guess in the same way a lot of people would say Linux Mint improves on what Ubuntu does, or Ubuntu improves on what Debian does, you know. Of course, on the flip side, you're going to find people that don't really care for what Linux Mint does to Ubuntu, or what Ubuntu does for Debian, or what Gecko does for OpenSUSE, so... I would make the argument that some of these distros probably aren't enough different from their mother distro, their parent distro, that some of these distros really don't serve as much of a purpose. You know, I know for years Linux Mint was essentially Ubuntu with the proprietary codecs installed. And, you know, it didn't make sense back then to run Mint. Now Mint has evolved over the years now because what they do with the Cinnamon desktop environment and the Mate desktop environment, you know, they're very much the driving force behind those two desktop environments, and you know, now Mint is very much its own thing. But for many years I never really saw the point of Linux Mint, and it was a very popular distro mainly because it had the proprietary codecs installed by default, where Ubuntu did not. You had to jump through some hoops to install the codecs in Ubuntu. But for a user like me, I know how to get the codecs installed. Same thing with something like Gecko Linux. I mean, I can get the codecs installed in OpenSUSE. Same thing with Fedora and Korora. I mean, Korora gets you some of that extra third-party stuff you need, where Fedora, you know, you have to go find it in a non-free repo. Debian, of course, the same. I'm back in the chat here. Yeah, people seem to like Gecko better, yeah. Hi all, this is off topic, sorry for that, but can somebody please point me to a tutorial on how to install software from GitHub for Debian? Are you trying to build it from source? I mean, it depends. I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to install. I mean, some of the stuff hosted on GitHub will probably be in the Debian repos, depending on, you know, what kind of programming language it's coded in. You know, you might be able to install it like a lot of Python programs you can install with pip, for example, or Haskell programs you can use Cabal, and, you know, all these other, you know, different package managers. Building it from source, of course, you need to do your standard, you know, configure, make, sudo make install. But again, it really depends on what you're trying to install from GitHub. It's not an answer that we can just give you without knowing a bit more about what you're trying to do here. Yeah, LXQt has much themes available. Steen says, morning. How you doing, Steen? Good to see you. Yeah, I just hopped too, Steven, but I'm on Budgie. Very cool. Yeah, when are you going to review an Enlightenment desktop distro? Well, I've taken a look at Bodhi on the channel before. Now, that desktop environment is a fork of Enlightenment. They're calling it Mushka. But I actually will take a look at Enlightenment soon, I think. I'll probably install, you know, Enlightenment on, you know, one of my Arch VMs, or maybe Debian, you know, Debian SID, you know, the rolling branch of Debian. We may take a look at, you know, a very plain, out-of-the-box Enlightenment desktop. Might configure it a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to spend a lot of time taking a look at Enlightenment, at least not right now, because I've still got other window managers that I've already committed to reviewing. I have to take a look at i3 and Ice Window Manager very soon. They're the last two window managers in the Obscure Window Manager project. Once I get through those, then I'll probably take a look at Enlightenment. I definitely will take a look at BSPWM. People have requested that. A lot of people have. DWM has also been a big request. I'll probably take a look at that. So once I get through the initial 12 window managers I'm reviewing in the Obscure Window Manager project, I'll probably take a look at Enlightenment, BSPWM, and DWM. Let's see, does Gecko have a lot of bloatware installed? I don't know. We'll see. OpenSUSE worked on my machine. The fragmentation with Linux over the years has started to grind my nerves. I would agree with that. Why should I use Gecko rather than OpenSUSE? Yeah, we just kind of discussed that. That's kind of my problem with some of these distros. Do they really differentiate themselves enough to warrant their existence? In Gecko, I can tell you one thing why you might choose something like Gecko rather than OpenSUSE. It comes pre-installed with a Cinnamon edition. Gecko does. SUSE does not offer a Cinnamon edition. Mainline OpenSUSE, you go through that installer, you have two choices, GNOME or KDE. So, where Gecko, I think, gives you like 8 choices. We'll take a look at their webpage, but they offer, I think, 8 different desktops. Yeah, can we not just combine all our efforts and come up with 10 mainline distros? 10's probably too few. You'll never get it down to that, but we could probably, you know, maybe under 100. Can we keep it under 100? Because there's over 300 listed on DistroWatch right now, and that's not including the hundreds of distros that are not included on DistroWatch. Yeah, Gecko's a smaller ISO with more options. Yep, more options for desktops. Why don't they make a smaller ISO for OpenSUSE? Yeah, I mean, maybe they do. I'm not sure. I'm not that up to date on what OpenSUSE does. I know their standard ISO is big, but maybe they have like a minimal install or a net install, kind of like Debian does. Is Gentoo for beginners and web dev? No, Gentoo is not a beginner distro, and I probably wouldn't use Gentoo for web development either. Like most web servers out on the web are going to be CentOS, Debian, Ubuntu, Gentoo is not a server distro. GNU/freedom says Dev1 over Debian. We'll just have to agree to disagree on that one. Have you heard about Alt Linux? I have heard of it, but I don't remember what it's all about. It might be written down in my very long list of distros I need to check out at some point. Yeah, I love Systemd. Very good, Alex. I don't hate Systemd. Let's see. Anything else would be considered an independent project. There's got to be a way to better organize these distros. Yep. Alright, so I'm going to mark my spot in the chat here. Because if I don't get to installing this distro, we will be here all night. But very quickly, I am going to go through the little blurb here on DistroWatch. Gecko Linux is a Linux spin based on the OpenSUSE distribution, with a focus on polish and out-of-the-box usability on the desktop. The distribution features many desktop editions which can be installed from live disk. Some patent-encumbered open-source software is included in Gecko Linux, which is not available in the default installation of OpenSUSE. So there you go. They offer more desktops than OpenSUSE, and they offer more of that proprietary software that OpenSUSE does not ship with out of the box. And of course, they do offer two main editions as far as two main branches, static and rolling. Leap and tumbleweed are what those are. I go to the Gecko Linux website, which is hosted on GitHub, geckolinux.github.io, and just brief look at their website. See if it'll tell me. Yep, right here. They have Gecko Linux Static Cinnamon, Gecko Linux Static XFCE, Static GNOME, Static Plasma, Static Mate, Budgie, which is unavailable at this time, Static LXQt, and Static Bare Bones. I'm guessing that's their minimal. You guys were asking about a smaller ISO. That's probably the one to check out. Now, these are the static ones. I'm assuming they have the rolling ones. Yep, the rolling in the same desktop flavors. So 16 different ISOs included. Well, once the Budgie ones are available. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fire up VirtualBox here. Let's see, I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick. Yeah. Corora has ceased development. Yeah, that's right. The developer, the lead dev, just doesn't have time to work on it. So Corora, yeah, might be dead. We'll see. Yeah, can I take a look at KWort? I've never heard of that, but I will write it down and maybe, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Enlightenment looks like Lumina. Lumina is horrible. Enlightenment, when I've looked at it in the past, is not horrible. It's not something I would use, but Lumina is just garbage. Let's see. Yes, Gentoo could break. Yes, Gentoo does break a lot. Ever think about looking at Sway? Yes, I've been asked about that one. I may take a look at it, but I haven't even looked at the normal i3 yet. Let's take a look at that one before we jump into Sway. There's so many window managers. I'm eventually going to take a look at everything, but, not this week. It'll take some time. But, yeah, we'll get there on the window managers. Let's see. Lighter on resources has HUD. You're talking about Ubuntu Mate? Yep. Yeah, the Mate desktop now has the heads-up display, kind of like the Unity edition had. Yes, I have just decided I'm going to use only the big boys or any independent distros that really stand out above the crowd. Yeah, that's usually what I do. I installed Gentoo, but I think it's over for web dev. Yeah. Gentoo probably not what you want for web dev. If you want something that's kind of bleeding edge, up to date, but you want to do some web dev on it, I don't know. I would just go with like the Ubuntu releases. I mean, they release every 6 months. You'll find a lot of Ubuntu servers out there, especially web servers, so might be a good one to look at. Fedora wouldn't be a horrible choice. Of course, Debian and CentOS would be great choices as well. Yeah, Present Arms. Hello, DT. Hello, all. Yep. Keegan. What's up, everyone? How you doing, Keegan? Mr. F says hi. Bare Bones is based on OpenBox. That's true. You talking about the Gecko? Is Bare Bones is OpenBox? I wonder why they just didn't call it OpenBox then and just called it Bare Bones. But, a lot of people do that. Like their minimal edition will be like Fluxbox or OpenBox. But why not just call it by that window manager name instead of minimal or bare bones? Thomas Holt says hi DT. Yep. This sucks to hear about Corora. Agreed. What I like about Gentoo is the use flags. Yep. Alright, so we got a lot of chat going on. I may have to ignore some of the chat for a bit just to get through this install. Let's see. So I've already got the ISO. I actually didn't check the size of the ISO. Let me see if I can pull that up while this loads. Let's see. 1.1 gigs. So that is not a very big ISO for a full desktop environment, especially something like Cinnamon. So I'm going to quickly try to read a few more chat comments. You guys won't see it on the screen, but yeah, Gentoo, spend more time. Special, we not need update after a long time. Okay. I just tried to test out Qtile, says Joel, on Manjaro XFCE, but I ran into an issue where the default config file wasn't found. I've been trying to figure that out. Okay, what you need to do is, well, in the terminal, if you have locate, the command locate, you can locate Qtile. Matter of fact, if I didn't have my desktop occupied by this VM right now, I'll show you. Remind me about that later, Joel, and I will show you where that config file is. Because I'm using Qtile. I can show you on my system. Alright, the only thing I like about Gentoo is that I don't use it. Hi, DT. Love your vids. That's Bubba. Good to see you, Bubba. Yeah, Mark Yates. Bunsen Labs is for development. Very cool. Alright, so I'm going to mark my place here in the chat again. Alright, so this is the live desktop environment here in Gecko Linux. This is their rolling edition, Cinnamon. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the Calamares installer. Since the install process will probably take about 15 minutes or so to run through, I'll catch up on the chat while the install is going. Anyway, the welcome screen. Language has already been chosen, American English. That's correct. Time zone is not correct. It is chosen the Eastern time zone. I'm in the Central time zone. Let's change that. Oh, keyboard is not correct either. French Canadian. No. You know, that's the first distro in a long time that's gotten that wrong. French Canada and English Canada are chosen. I'm not sure why. English US, though, is what I need. I don't think I've seen an installer get that wrong in a while. A lot of them get the time zones wrong, but never, you know. Let's see. The partitions, I'm just going to do the automatic partitioning. I'm going to let Gecko Linux set up the partitions however it wants to set it up. I'm not sure if it's going to create a swap or what it's going to do. I could do manual partitioning, but of course the purpose of this reviews, I mean, what you guys are probably interested in is what does Gecko Linux do for automatic partitioning. So we will see. Username. My username I like to create in these VMs is DT. I need to create a strong and complicated password for security reasons. Right, log in automatically without asking for a password? No, I want to have to type my long and complicated password. Use the same password for the administrator account, the super user account. Yep, I'm cool with that. That way I don't have to remember 2 different passwords. Alright, our summary, location. Yeah, make sure the keyboard is... System language will be set to English Canada. We'll leave it. It should be English US, but that's fine. Keyboard. English US. Okay, that's the main thing. We want to make sure the keyboard is set right. Alright, partitions. So /div/sda. Yeah, basically we're creating a swap. We're creating an extended 4 file system. Yep, okay. Let's install it. It's going to format the drive and write to the disk. Of course, this is a virtual drive, so I gave this virtual machine 15 gigs of space. I gave it 2 cores of my 6-core CPU. I gave it 4 gigs of RAM. I don't know if there's going to be anything involving any kind of updates as far as pulling anything down on the internet. If there is something to do with that during the install, you may see the stream struggle a bit. So I'm not exactly sure if it's going to like try to connect to any repos and pull anything down from the internet. I'm hoping it's all on the ISO. Otherwise, we're going to have some buffering during the stream if it gets to that point. Anyway, that's going to take, I don't know, 10 minutes. I'm going to go back to the chat. Yeah, Present Arms, he made an ISO on an OVA. That is a VirtualBox image, basically. Oh, that's very cool. It weighs in at 2.1 gigs. That's not bad, actually. Bunsen Labs should be reviewed again. It changed a lot. Yeah, I should review Bunsen Labs again. I should. I didn't like it the last time I reviewed it because it was so old. I mean, it was still using kernel version 3. Whatever. I mean, that thing was based on Debian 8, which was many years ago. Let's see. Keegan, I'm exhausted, but I got my car back on the road today, so I'm happy. Only paid $52 for parts. Very cool. Huh. Dave says hello. How you doing, Dave? Good to see you. All right. Yeah, Present Arms is giving the locate, update DB and locate. Now you have to have locate installed on your system, so you may have to install the package on your system. What distro are you running? I'm not sure, but it's mlocate, I think is the package. Mlocate, all one word. Install that, and then do the update DB, and then locate Qtile. And it'll spit out this big list of every file and folder that involves the word Qtile. In one of those, you will see qtile/config.py. Config.py is the default config. Copy that to your home folder. In your home folder, you have a folder called .config. It's hidden. Create a folder in there called Qtile. Copy that file over there and then start editing. You know, play with it to your heart's content. And I'll try to remember to actually show you that on my system, how it's done. What I just explained probably sounds really complicated, but it's not. Just a couple of commands and you're good. Commands in the terminal, but nothing complicated. Alright, Joel says, alright, thanks. From what I've seen from your vids and even what I've experienced so far, Qtile is awesome. I'll ask you about it a little later. Yeah, I'll try to remember. Once I'm done with this VM, it's the problem. This VM is going to take up the screen I'm recording, you know, as long as it's open. I have other monitors, but I'm not going to record them. I'm only recording one monitor, and that VM's on it, so. If you had actually asked me before I launched the VM, I would have showed you, but I'll show you at the end if you can stick around. If you can't stick around, though, you can catch a replay of the video. I'll be sure to include that later, though, for you, Joel. So, yeah, as root or sudo for the update database, yeah. Mr. F, I chose the Canadian time zone. Did I really? Oh, okay. Well, that would explain why the keyboard was French. Okay, so that's my fault. Why did I choose the Canadian time zone? I wasn't precise where I clicked on the map. I didn't. Yeah, I just clicked somewhere on the map. I got you. You're right. Mr. F. Yeah. I appreciate you setting me straight there. So, you Gecko Linux devs, you're doing a bang-up job. Everything that I said about the time zone, that's my fault. Alright, and that install. Wow. Were you guys timing that install? That was a 5-minute install. I mean, from start to finish. 5 minutes. So, restart now is what you would click, and click done, and it should reboot your system. I still have the ISO attached, so I'm actually going to shut down this VM because I need to detach the ISO before I reboot. Power off. Hopefully this VM doesn't take all day to shut down. No, it shuts down really quick too. Wow. I mean, just from the install alone, and also how fast the VM shuts down. Wow. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Storage. Let's get rid of the ISO here. We need to detach the ISO. This is the same as if you were running it on physical hardware, unplugging the USB stick. Now you reboot, and you should have the installed Gecko Linux. Yep. We have a boot menu. It's loading kernel 4.16.12, so a very recent kernel. You would expect that. Again, it's based on Tumbleweed, so rolling release, very, very bleeding edge packages. Alright. Looks like it's the Light DM greeter login manager here. VirtualBox guest editions work out of the box. I mean, I've spent seriously all of 10 minutes in Gecko Linux. I know I haven't even looked at the desktop, but already I can tell you I'm going to like this distro. I mean, it's already getting a lot of the little things right. You know, a lot of the things I complain about a lot. It's really attractive as far as nice wallpaper. I'm not sure if it's one of their original wallpapers or was something that was shipped with OpenSUSE. The Cinnamon desktop environment, I mean the panel at the bottom looks nice. Looks like they're using the Faenza icon set, which is a nice icon set. The window theming, the GTK theme, looks good. And I'll go through the menu here in a second, see what is installed. Probably not going to be a lot of applications installed by default because the ISO, again, was only 1.1 gigs, so it's not going to be much there. Alright. So, did I mark my place in the chat? I may not have. Now I got to figure out, yeah. Anas says, wow, two characters, very complicated. Yes, my password is 2 characters, but you don't know what those 2 characters are. Mark says, link this overrated. Oh, my channel's going to get demonetized again. Kit Son says, hi, Kit. Good to see you. Location and keyboard seem to be wrong. Yes, the location and keyboard were wrong. Yeah, entropy matters, says Mark Yates. Yes, so size is not what it's all cracked up to be. Yeah, DT, choose a Central Canada time zone, rewind and watch. Okay. Oh, I chose a Central, yeah. So I don't like their theme anyway, at least you can change it. Their rolling version is more stable than Manjaro's. Let's see. Nice. Control-H to show hidden files in folders. Yes, Control-H in your file manager. I guess it depends on what file manager you're using. You're using Ranger? That sounds like a... Isn't that the key binding in Ranger, the terminal-based web file manager? Maybe also the same key binding in GUI file managers as well. Let's see. Alex, I installed my 2015 ISO and ran an update. No breakages from 3 years of updates. But it was only 1,250 packages, though. That is surprising that it was so few packages after 3 years. So that ISO was not a very big ISO. Let's see, GNU/Freedom. Why do the guys over at Big Daddy Linux hate Richard Stallman so much? So I made a video about Richard Stallman a few months ago explaining that Richard Stallman, he's a very controversial figure, and he has had some very strange comments regarding pedophilia over the years. He's a big supporter of legalizing pedophilia. So take that for what it is. Obviously, some people have problems with that. A lot of people actually have problems with that. So, and that is what the guys at Big Daddy... I did the Big Daddy Linux podcast last night. I join those guys usually every Saturday night. And right at the end of that podcast, yeah, there was some exchange among about 4 or 5 of us about Richard Stallman. And a couple of the guys expressed some real hate, some disdain for Richard Stallman. So that's what that's about. Let's see, I chose Otakoken instead of Chicago. Yeah, I tried to choose Chicago in the Central Time Zone, and I guess I picked something in the Central Time Zone in Canada. That's my bad on that. Steve, hey DT, have you thought about doing a review on the business server OS like ClearOS or Zentyal? No, I haven't. I'm usually not going to review server distros because I'm a desktop user. I don't work with servers. I'm not in that industry. Plus, I think it would make for kind of a weird review. Somebody that doesn't really use servers reviewing a server distro on YouTube. I mean, it's not exactly going to be entertaining TV. So, yeah, Hobo Lord says Richard Stallman is a character, funny guy. Yeah, he's a character. Is he funny? I've never found him to be. He's never said anything that made me laugh. I mean, I laugh at him, yeah, but not laugh with him. It's one of those kind of... Are you talking about Gecko or Manjaro? You're asking Present Arms. I'm not sure what you guys are talking about there. Let's see. ThinkPad is being named Bella. You naming your computers? Very nice. Every computer should have a name, a girl's name. Most file managers will use Control-H for show hidden files. That's good to know, Present Arms. I usually just set all mine to by default show hidden files because I play around with my dot files so much. And the first thing I do is go into the preferences and have show hidden files ticked on. So, because I never not want to see my hidden files. Let's see, Mark Yates, there's slightly newer ThinkPads, these slightly newer ThinkPads look really nice. Yeah, the carbon fiber ones, yes. Instead of those old clunky metal ones that were heavy, you could weigh down a body with that thing. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to mark my spot here in the chat. Let's get back to Gecko Linux. Alright, so probably going to have to ignore the chat for a minute. Let's see what applications are installed by default. Let's go category by category. The accessories, we have our archive manager. This is, of course, your zip, unzip tool. This might be, is it the GNOME one? What is the GNOME archive manager? Is that file roller? Not exactly sure where I can find information about that. Here it is, about. It just calls itself Archive Manager, Archive Manager 3.28. Yeah, it's GNOME's Archive Manager, but I believe the actual name of the program is File Roller. But GNOME loves those very generic names that really don't tell you the name of the program. Calculator. Calculator, of course, is a very simple calculator. I say it's simple. It does have scientific mode. That's really nice. Accessories, we have Parcelite, which is our clipboard. Qt 4 settings, we have a screenshot utility, text editor. Let's see what text editor they're using. Let's see, about gedit. So they're using the standard GNOME text editor, gedit 3.28.1. Accessories, we have our virtual keyboard. Okay, that's pretty much it for accessories. And accessories is usually one of the bigger subcategories in these menus, so you can already tell there won't be much installed by default here. Under graphics, we have our document viewer for PDFs, gthumb, we have an image viewer, LibreOffice Draw, and Simple Scan. Internet, Firefox is our web browser. Being based on Tumbleweed, this would be Firefox 60. At least it should be, but let's make sure though. Yep, Firefox 60.0.1, Firefox Quantum. And that actually launched relatively quick for Firefox. The big browsers, Firefox, Chrome, Chromium, sometimes they take several seconds to launch on physical hardware, but especially in these VMs. So that actually launched pretty quick. I'm actually pretty happy with performance so far in Gecko. Nothing really seems to be lagging or kind of crapping out. And Cinnamon is not a lightweight desktop environment. Cinnamon's kind of heavy. Almost GNOME heavy. Pigeon is installed under Internet. Thunderbird, email client. Transmission is our BitTorrent client. Office, we have LibreOffice, Calc, Draw, Impress, and Writer. I'm assuming this will be the latest LibreOffice. Should be LibreOffice 6. Whatever point number they're on in the 6 series now. 6.0.4.2. Alright, under sound and video, Clementine is our music player. One of the best audio players we have in Linux. And just free and open source software in general. Clementine is a fork of the old Amarok audio player from back in the day in KDE. Amarok started going off in a direction some people didn't agree with, so it was forked. Clementine was created out of that, and Clementine really is a much better audio player than Amarok ever was. Sound and video, we also have our Pulse Audio volume controller, and we have the VLC media player. Let's see, this should be the latest VLC 3.0.2, codename Vetinari. Okay, how do I close this window? There are no close buttons. That's weird. You guys seeing this window without any close buttons? I wonder if it's just... That might be the first glitch. It doesn't look like there's any close buttons. How do you close this? If I close VLC, yeah, I can't close VLC while this has focus. Huh, well, we found our first little minor glitch here. Now, you guys that are not used to doing anything in the command line, how you would solve this problem is you need to open up a terminal. Does Control-Alt-T open a terminal in Gecko? It does. Very good. Thank you, Gecko devs. You guys are awesome. Control-Alt-T gets you a terminal. Type in the word xkill. You see your cursor turns into a skull and crossbones. Any window you click goes bye-bye. Gone. so that took care of that problem. Let's go back to the chat for a second. Yeah, so Mark Yates, you can't judge his work on his beliefs, and it doesn't mean he himself is. Talking about Richard Stallman, yeah, I mean, Richard Stallman may not be a pedophile, but he supports legalizing pedophilia. And yeah, you can separate the two. I mean, he is doing it based on, I guess, this free hippie kind of ideology he has. It's not that he necessarily thinks pedophilia is a great thing. He just doesn't think it should be criminalized. I don't know. But yes, I mean, you have to separate what he does with the free software movement and then, you know, some of the other stuff about Richard Stallman that's really has no business being involved in the free software movement. Let's see, I think Stallman has a channel on YouTube. Does he? I doubt it. Stallman would never set foot on a website like YouTube. That's not who that man is. Stallman doesn't even really use the internet the way you and I, because he refuses to use a website that uses any non-free software. So anything that uses JavaScript for the most part, which is pretty much the entire internet. Stallman is not setting foot on any website like that. YouTube is not free and open source. The company behind YouTube, Google, Stallman hates Google. Yeah, he would never, you're never going to see Stallman on a YouTube channel. I mean, well, he might do a video that appears on YouTube, but he himself does not have a YouTube account. Justin says, hello everyone. Hello, Justin. Yeah, Steen says, my computer's name is Nostromo. Wasn't that the ship in Aliens? I like that. Mr. F, how's the old PC hunt going? Good question. I've actually got a little bit of money set aside, and I have actually been looking at buying a couple of older laptops. I'm thinking about, somebody mentioned ThinkPads. I'm thinking about buying an older ThinkPad because they're relatively cheap. I mean, you can buy some pretty decent ThinkPads for like 150 bucks, and Linux runs great on those things. But I've been looking around. Probably within the next week or two, I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on one or two machines. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to go with yet. One of them probably will be a ThinkPad, though. And it'd be nice having some extra machines around to test distros on physical hardware. That way, you know, I like doing the installs and VMs because I can record them. But it's nice to actually test them out, how they run on physical hardware. And I really can't do that. I only have my main production machine. I'm not wiping it out like every week. And then my laptop, but you know, I really don't want to wipe it out all the time either. So it'll be nice to have a couple of other machines that aren't, their only purpose will be for me to hop on. So yeah, so Stallman won't ever have a YouTube channel, says no, absolutely not. Yeah, you guys, if you don't know about Richard Stallman, yeah, he is. And when he is talking about free software, I mean, he lives this stuff. The whole free software, the free movement. He is not going to use any of the services that we use on a daily basis. He won't even use credit cards because they require you to have an identity, basically. I mean, he says he has a credit card, but he has it locked away for emergencies, and he only uses it to buy plane tickets. And the only reason he does that, he allows an exception for that, is because there's no way to fly without being ID'd and having to tell people who you are anyway. So if he's already got to tell the airport about it, he'll use a credit card there. He doesn't like staying in hotels that require identification. I mean, Richard Stallman is hardcore when it comes to this stuff. And he's lived this way his whole life. I mean, the man's got to be almost 70 now. I'm actually not sure how old he is, but yeah, he lives and breathes this stuff. I mean, it's not just a facade. It's not a front. I mean, he really is all in on free software. Can you make a video about properly using wine? I don't like wine. I've never liked wine. Wine is not a good product, to be honest. I guess I could make a video about it, but it's not something I recommend people to use. If you need to game and you need to run Windows-only games, you really should run them on Windows. Wine is not a good option. You need to run them either dual boot with Windows or have a VM of Windows if you got enough RAM and try to game in a VM using GPU pass-through. But Wine, most of the games you try to run in Wine are not going to run right. So I wouldn't even explore that option. So yeah, I thought Stallman was not serious, just putting on a show. No, Stallman is dead serious. Yeah. Alright, I lost my place in the chat here. Let's see. I might have to skip over a few comments. I'm not exactly sure. The chat just skipped a bit, and I'm not sure where I was here. What are you installing? Min 18.3? No, I'm installing Gecko Linux 150. It was just released, I think, 2 days ago. This is Gecko Linux 150. The rolling branch of it, the tumbleweed branch, using Cinnamon. Yeah, right-click on the taskbar and close that window. Yeah, I should have tried that. It's weird that it didn't have any kind of decorations or anything to close. Alt F4 to close. Yeah, you could have tried that. Yeah. You could have done P-kill VLC. Yeah, as a matter of fact, now we're going to get... There's a million ways I could have killed that window. Yeah. And this is a great thing about Linux. So many ways to do the same thing. What's the right answer? Any of them. I mean, really, any of them. Maybe this missing close button is related to their theme. It probably is. Can you test Flint OS someday? It is on my to-do list. I think I tried to look at it one time, and I don't think it could install right for me or something. I remember like 4 months ago, 3-4 months back, I remember going to their website, but I had a problem with it. I didn't get very far with it, so I didn't bother doing any kind of video on it. But yes, I plan on taking a look at it at some point. Let's see. Yep, you're right, Derek. I was mistaken. I was right about what? Yeah, I'm not sure. But that's great, I was right. Thank you, Lamarck. Let's see. Yeah, for ThinkPad hunts, check out a channel called AA Computer and Technology. The guy listed some of the best eBay sellers he bought from. Awesome. And I might buy some machines off of eBay. I'm going to look locally at some of my pawn shops, but I might check out eBay too. I don't mind buying from eBay. Q1 Fiend says he picked up a Lenovo ThinkPad last month for $110 on eBay. $110? Wow. It was a X131E. Nice machine for what it is, yeah. I mean, if you paid $110 and the machine works, yeah, that's actually not bad. Yeah, I mentioned Richard Stallman's got to be almost 70 now. Yeah, that was just a guess. Present Arms says, yeah, he was born March 1953, so he's 65. Yep. Reflipped says, I hate Windows. I agree with you there. Yeah, Chris Samuel also. Richard is 65. Yep. I've tried Wine on many occasions. Anytime I try to use it, it failed. Yeah, Wine is not a good option. I know a lot of like new Linux users, you know, they still want to run their Windows software. Some people recommend Wine, or you do a search and Wine comes up in the search. You think Wine might actually work for you. Trust me. Don't even try it. If you have to run Windows-only software, here's the thing. You need to run Windows. You need some instance of Windows somewhere that you can log into every now and then to run that software. If you need to run Mac software, Mac-only software, guess what? You better have a Mac somewhere around. You're running software that is only available on Linux, guess what? You're going to need a Linux machine. That's just, I mean, that's just the nature of it. Neckbeard Brony. Love the username. I've tried Wine, yeah, and it failed. Yeah, that was the Wine comment. Yes, it's just his nature, but he's a great guy, but he has similar beliefs. That's all I can say. It is what it is. Talking about Stallman, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to pass judgment on Stallman. I think his pedophilia comments are kind of retarded. I mean, if I'm being honest. But morally, I'm not going to, you know, pass judgment on the guy and say he's a bad guy or a good guy. That kind of stuff doesn't interest me, to be honest. What people say usually doesn't get me riled up. Especially what he said. I mean, there's a lot worse things to say than I think pedophilia should be legalized. I mean, not that that's, again, not horrible, but... Alright, so let's get back to the desktop. But one of the things we discussed in that Big Daddy Linux podcast last night is, regardless of what you think about Stallman as far as, you know, some of the controversial stuff he said over the years, he's not a good guy to be out in front of the free software movement. He's just not. He's not good at interviews. He's not good at speaking. He comes across as very stubborn, as, you know, he's not professional. I mean, he looks like a really old hippie. And we'll just leave it at that. All right, back to the desktop here. Did I finish the menu here? Yeah. Well, I didn't go over administration or preferences. Preferences are your standard, you know, stuff you'll find in your control panel for display and printing and all that. I'm not going to bother going over that. Excuse me, guys. Administration, though, might have some interesting stuff. Kernel settings. And we need to give a root password. Let's check out kernel settings. So it's reading the system. This is YAST2 kernel settings. I believe this tool is also found in SUSE. And I'm not exactly sure what it was looking for. Kernel settings, PCI, ID setup. Anyway, we'll get out of that. Also under administration, bootloader. Okay. Let's see what we're doing with the bootloader here. This is another YAST. Okay. Bootloader, grub2. Was there anything else we could have went with grub2 for EFI or not managed? Obviously, we need a bootloader, so. I guess you wouldn't need a bootloader depending on if you were multi-booting with other operating systems and you already had a bootloader installed. Date and time. Pretty much everything under administration requires root privileges. This is another YAST utility. This YAST2 program apparently controls everything on the computer. And you guys complain about systemd and how pervasive it is. You know, where are all the YAST haters? Because this is just too much. Oh my goodness, it's downloading. I hope the stream doesn't wig out. This is what I was afraid of, is, you know, some of these programs, when they start connecting to the internet and start pulling stuff down, it may cause the stream to kind of go crazy here. Let me abort this, just in case. I don't want the stream to start stuttering. Alright. Anyway, date and time. Administration, disk, files. Files, of course, is our file manager, which in the Cinnamon desktop environment is Nemo. Very cool. Nemo, of course, is a fork of the old Nautilus file manager before Nautilus was neutered to the point of being almost useless. Firewall setup. Let's see. These packages need to be installed. I'm not going to install them because it's going to have to download it from the internet, but there is firewall. Now, it's a different firewall utility than what, like, Ubuntu and a lot of the Ubuntu-based distros. They use UFW. They use, what is it, uncomplicated firewall. I believe SUSE is using, you guys that happen to know what SUSE is using, help me out here. Is it FireGel? Could be wrong on that. Anyway, I'm not going to download it though, because again, it's going to cause the stream to act funny. Gparted is installed. We have our partitioner. Actually, a couple of different partitioners. We have disk, Gparted, and partitioner all installed. So this would make a pretty cool live USB stick, a rescue USB stick. The SUSE Studio image writer is here. Very cool. Nice program to burn images. System monitor. Let's take a look at the system monitor. This is always interesting. One of my big complaints about Cinnamon is it's very heavy. It's just too heavy on system resources. I mean, look at CPU right now. I mean, I'm using 40% plus of both cores of the CPU I gave. That's too much. That's way too much. Memory. I'm using a gig of memory. 1 gig of the 4 gigs of memory I gave it. For what's going on the desktop right now, that's too much. Because I'm not doing anything. I'm looking at the system monitor. There's some stuff in the sys tray here I could get rid of. I mean, I'm not going to close the volume applet. I could close the clipboard, I guess, but really, there's not enough stuff going on here to be taking 40% of my CPU and 1 gig of memory. There's not. So that's why I've never been a fan of the Cinnamon desktop. That's why a lot of people ask me why I don't do anything with Mint. I've never liked Mint, mainly because Mint is kind of closely tied to the Cinnamon desktop. I mean, the Mint devs spend most of their time working on Cinnamon. This is not Mint, of course. This is Gecko. But speaking of, many people ask me why I don't use Mint, run Mint. It's because I don't like Cinnamon. You know, I don't like bloat. You guys know that. I'm more minimal. Let's see if I remember where I was in the chat. Did I even mark it? No, I didn't. Let me see. I might have to skip a bunch of this chat here. Yeah, Present Arms mentions a program called LMMS. Yeah, Linux Multimedia Studio. Is that what it is? It's great for creating music tracks, MIDI tracks, things like that. I've played around with it a little bit, but that's not something I really know much about. I'm not that into multimedia stuff on Linux. Really, if it wasn't for this YouTube channel, I would know nothing about like audio and video stuff on Linux. Yeah. Let's see. Survivor of the Fire. What's up, DT? What's up, Survivor? He's so creepy, Lamarck says. I'm assuming we're still on Stallman. It's a lot of Stallman talk. I actually am surprised you guys are wanting to talk about Richard Stallman so much on my Gecko Linux. And, you know, that stuff on Big Daddy about Stallman, I mean, we only talked about him for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. But I guess some of you that actually saw that, you know, it struck a nerve or something. It was an interesting part of the live stream last night, though. Especially one particular person's reaction on the stream. Zebedee Boss, Zeb. He had a really negative reaction to just Richard Stallman, the name being brought up. And I imagine there are a lot of people out there like that regarding Stallman. So. My beer is getting warm here, guys. Sorry, I need to take a drink here. Libre software needs 3 people to speak for it. And it will rule the computing world. Mark Shuttleworth, Elon Musk, and Morgan Freeman. As you're talking about, you know, people out there promoting a product. Yeah, I mean, Shuttleworth is great. Musk is great. And, of course, Morgan Freeman is like the voice of God. Lamarck, try to use HTOP. Survivor, is Cinnamon as heavy as GNOME, though? It's about as heavy as GNOME, at least in my experience, every time I've looked at it. It may be a little lighter than GNOME, but it's not much lighter than GNOME. Cinnamon's pretty heavy. Yeah, Jonathan Clark. Whoa, that's too much. What does HTOP say? So a lot of you guys are asking about the what would the stats in HTOP say, and that's a fair point because the system monitor itself, the GUI system monitor, may be sucking up some of that CPU and RAM. So let's see if HTOP is installed on this system. It is not, but you know what? This gives me a chance to check out the software installer. So software. Okay, install remove software. Because HTOP is such a small program, I don't mind going ahead and pulling it down. If it lags the stream, it's going to lag the stream for all of 2 seconds because HTOP installs like that. Of course, we got to sync the repos here. This may take a second. Back to the chat here. Let's see. Anyone else running 320 by 240 resolution? Why would you be 320 by 240? Huh. Yeah, Kenny says that's almost as bad as Windows about the system resources. Yeah. Maz Maker says high CPU usage, probably because of software rendering on your VM. Could be because of the Cinnamon desktop environment. You get that warning about software rendering, the little pop-up that comes up when you first log in. That could be. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Lamarck, he's on system Linux Mint Cinnamon. He's using 400 megs. At least it was on 18.3. Okay. Cinnamon is a piece of garbage. I wouldn't call Cinnamon a piece of garbage. It's actually a attractive desktop and functional. I don't mind the workflow either. It just needs to be lighter. Yeah, Derek T, can you unban me on your Discord? I'm sorry for tagging everyone. Would I have to pay or do something for you? If so, what? It wasn't me that banned you on my Discord. I rarely go over there, but I do have an admin over there. If you do something kind of goofy, yeah, they may ban you. Also, obviously, if you're abusive toward anybody in the chat, they could ban you. If you're underage, too, you need to be at least 13 years old, really, to be on any kind of social network or anything like Discord, even on chat. So if you told anybody that you were a kid, you know, especially if you're under 13, you really don't need to be there. So I'm not going to unban you because I don't know what the person that banned you for. So Murdoch, I bet 50% of us are all on our ThinkPad X series. Lamarck, Cinnamon is for users who like the old and classic, yep, the old Windows look. You're right. Howdy, Derek. You're a valuable teacher and an inspiration to us Linux newbies. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Robert, appreciate that. All right. Anyway, back to HTOP. Okay. Anyway, this YAST tool, very similar to Synaptic, if you've used Synaptic, or what's the one in Arch? That's very similar. Is that PAMAC? Anyway, install, accept, away we go. Not very complicated. And did you see how quick that was? HTOP is so nice, so light. HTOP. Let's see what we're, okay. So the graphical system monitor was taking up, actually, a little bit of RAM. It knocked the RAM down about 150 megs or so. But the CPU percentage is way down. Now we're to a normal number, 3%, 2%. Let me go back to the GUI system monitor, just to make sure. I don't know why the GUI system monitor, yeah, it's the GUI system monitor. Look at that CPU. It spikes the CPU way up. Oh, and the memory is at least 200 megs higher now than it was in HTOP, but the CPU is through the roof. Well, there you go. The system monitor is complete garbage. I mean, it's useless to use a system monitor that spikes all that CPU and RAM because it's not giving you any kind of accurate assessment. So anyway, let me get back through the chat here. I know I've missed a ton of chat. Sorry guys if I've missed anything you said. If it was anything really important, just ask it again. Well, let's see. Yes, Cinnamon is a great desktop, just too dang heavy. Yep. Let's see. Arouette Martel, I hope I pronounced that. Hello, Mr. DistroTube. What is the beer tonight? Nothing special. Corona, one of my go-to beers. It was a very hot day here in Louisiana, so Corona's nice, kind of light. Don't want anything too heavy, nothing dark, definitely nothing, that's very high as far as alcohol percentage. I wouldn't want to drink an IPA on a day like today. IPAs are great in the winter, though. Let's see. Ice says, LOL, why did I do that? I'm not sure. What'd you do? Are you still talking about being banned or something? Anyway, sucks that you were banned from my Discord server. Again, the admin did it. I'll let them handle that. But, I mean, I'm not sure why you want to be on that server anyway. That's not like much goes on my Discord server. I mean, a few people hang out there, but I mean, you're not out anything. like if they banned me from my own Discord server, I'd be okay with it because I don't go there that often. Yeah. MCSE port, mech support, I don't know. PAMAC, yes, PAMAC is the Arch. Yeah, they're all very similar. That YAST software, Synaptic, PAMAC, they all have the similar look and feel. They're all simple to use. You search for the name of program, you click install, you click accept in SUSE, or apply in Debian and Ubuntu or whatever in Synaptic, and away you go. Yeah, load HTOP at the same time. Yep. I'm using Deepin on my laptop and love it. Very cool. Okay, so let's go back to the system monitor. I'm going to open up HTOP first, actually. Yeah, let's open up HTOP because we know HTOP is not really affecting these numbers very much. Well, I say it's not. Okay, yeah. You give it about 2 seconds and let it settle down, and CPU percentage drops into single digits. RAM is 787 megs, exactly where it was before. Now let's go to the GUI. System Manager, System Monitor here. Yep. Yeah, CPU is 86, 57, 56. Let me grab a window and drag a window around. Oh yeah, look at that. CPU is 90%. Yeah, it might have something to do with, yeah, the rendering here in the VM. You're right. Anything when the theme, when you drag windows around, or when the window first opens up, you know, it really spikes things. But I don't know. I mean, I can understand why the CPU, but the memory, 1 gig of RAM is being used right now. I don't get it. You know what? I'm going to right-click on this desktop. Let's see. Desktop settings. Now let's go to change desktop background. Are there any wallpapers to choose from? Now in OpenSUSE, they really don't include any wallpapers in OpenSUSE. I think you have 2 wallpapers to choose from. Let's see if I get any wallpapers to choose from in Gecko. Nope. The same, basically 1 or 2 wallpapers I saw in SUSE. So, matter of fact, yeah, it even has OpenSUSE on it. So no Gecko branding. So they're not even like going to the trouble of rebranding everything to Gecko Linux. So, which is fine. I think I mentioned this before on a previous review of Gecko, and the lead dev of Gecko actually responded to me and said they purposely don't remove any the OpenSUSE branding or anything, that they're proud that they base on OpenSUSE, and they want to give OpenSUSE, you know, all the credit for their distro. They're really not trying to do their own thing, you know, have their own identity, I guess. I get it. It's their distro, it's their choice. A lot of distros, though, I think, do that out of laziness sometimes. I see a lot of distros that don't take the time to, you know, change like the boot screen and everything, the default wallpaper, and they leave it as their parent distro's name and logo and everything. It looks tacky. But the Gecko guys are apparently doing it on purpose. I mean, so. Back to the chat here. Maybe Cinnamon system usage is higher due to some programs being open. Maybe if you reboot it and open HTOP, it will change. Yeah, I did open up a lot of programs going through the menu. I mean, we can try it. Let's see. Yeah, it was seriously hot today, and then it started raining and cooled down a bit. You should be seeing our rain soon. It's coming from Shreveport. Yeah, if it was raining in Shreveport, I'll see it in a couple hours. Let's see. Let's reboot the machine. That's actually not a bad thing to do anyway. Let's see how long this VM takes to restart. Because we really didn't go through a restart earlier on the installation. You know, I actually had to kill the VM, detach the ISO and all that. So actually the restart was very quick. Got to this boot menu very fast. Alright, now it's loading back up. You know, the speed of everything in Gecko, even with Cinnamon, is actually pretty good. It's the only thing that bothers me is just when you open that system monitor and you see some of those numbers. You know, I don't like seeing some of the numbers I'm seeing. But as far as, you know, how it feels, and, you know, opening the menus and just running through everything, I mean, There is a little lag, but not much. I mean, it's for a VM, nothing that bothers me at all. So it's actually pretty snappy. Anyway, we're running in software rendering mode. This is normal for Cinnamon. This is every time I look at Cinnamon, you always get this software rendering mode thing in a VM. So let's run HTOP now. Alright, RAM is about 100 megs less, 674. And CPU, yeah, single digits again, 5%. Well, it spiked up to 39 there for just a second. And that's probably one of the background services, probably whatever is checking for updates. Usually anything to do with package management, spikes CPU. And let's go to the GUI. The GUI system monitor, still crazy high. It is just this program, I think. Or again, the software rendering, it's just anything to do with the GTK theme or whatever, just having a window open regardless. But you know what, I have a window open for HTOP. I mean, it's a terminal, but it has a proper GTK theme, you know, window decorations and everything. But HTOP, it may just be the system monitoring program that's causing the problem. Anyway, I'm not that concerned about it, to be honest. Overall, I like what I'm seeing with Gecko, just spending, you know, a few minutes with it. I love the installation. I mean, when's the last time you installed a Linux distro in 5 minutes? I mean, I've installed a lot of distros, and some of them have been pretty quick installations, but that installation was seriously, start to finish, 5 minutes. For a full desktop environment. Yeah, you can disable animations and make it less high. Yeah, I'm not going to play around with any of that stuff. I'm just looking at it default out of the box. Obviously, you can strip down any desktop environment to, you know, lighten up CPU and RAM. And you can do that with GNOME. You can do that with KDE. But mainly, you know, these pre-built, you know, Linux distros. I just want to show you guys what the devs are intending to show you. You know, I don't want to hack away at it. Because honestly, once I start hacking away at it, I'm not even going to have Cinnamon on it. You know, I'm going to be running Xmonad or, you know, OpenBox or something. Alright, let's see. Alright. I'm probably going to kill the stream here in a little bit. We've been running a little over an hour, about an hour and 8 minutes. One thing I do want to do, and Joel is probably not even here anymore. If you are, Joel, holler at me. But I was going to show him how to find the Qtile config, the default config in Qtile. So I need to kill this VM here in a second and get that on video in case he rewatches the video later. So I wanted to make sure I got that for him. Let's see. I'm Linux says Deepin is easy on the eye, but it's not my cup of tea or a cup of coffee, I guess. Yep. I love Deepin. I love the workflow. Love everything about it, other than it's too dang heavy, much like Cinnamon. Although I like Deepin more than I like Cinnamon, as far as, you know, the look and feel and the workflow. Deepin's really nice. If it was just a little lighter on system resources, I'd probably use it, to be honest. Yeah, I get being proud of your base system, but at least make a Gecko logo. Exactly. When you do a search on Google, because I actually did this, did a search for Gecko Linux, when you look at the images for Gecko Linux, it's just like screenshots of Gecko Linux, like the desktop. There are no Gecko Linux wallpapers. They don't even bother making them. They don't even like ask the community to make a Gecko Linux wallpaper. So it's strange. And Mr. F says, I don't think there is a best distro. I use Deepin and Parrot. Yeah, there's no best distro. Because it depends on your use case. It depends on what you're doing. I mean, you're doing a email server, you're doing a desktop, you're doing it on a 13-inch laptop, or what kind of programs are you intending to use? You know, you're mostly using multimedia stuff. You're mostly living in a terminal. I mean, it really depends on what you're doing. You need the latest software, or do you want rock solid stability? You know, Again, everybody's got a different use case, so the best distro is going to be different for every single Linux user. That's one of the most often asked questions I get because doing this channel is, hey, what's the best Linux distro? Or the biggest question I get is, what is my favorite Linux distro? I don't really have a favorite. I mean, I have some that I love and I go back to on a regular basis, but as far as what's my favorite, I don't know. Love Debian, love Arch, and love a lot of Debian and Arch-based distros. But a favorite? I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I guess I would say my favorite is the one I'm on right now. What I'm on right now is Manjaro, so I'd say that's my favorite at the moment. Because it's working for me. If it wasn't working for me, I'd move to something else. And then whatever distro I move to, that would be my favorite. Yeah, there's no best distro, just preference. It's Hobo Lord. That's an interesting name. Hobo. Very cool. Yeah, you're watching this from your Bunsen Labs install, Survivor? Very cool. I like Bunsen Labs. I love OpenBox. Love Debian. I just mentioned I love Debian. Debian with OpenBox is, I mean, you can't beat it. Yeah, compared to Windows, Linux is so fast to install. Agreed. We have gotten so good with these installers, it is crazy how fast most Linux installs are now these days. Mr. F, your streams are the best, man. Did you check out Ubuntu 18.10? Ubuntu 18.10 is pre-alpha. I mean, I could check it out, but what's the point? I mean, they haven't even released an alpha yet. I mean, it is so early to take a look at 18.10. Now, once they release an official alpha, or certainly once they get into betas, yeah, I'll be taking a look at it, keeping it, keeping up with some of the development for the Ubuntu releases, for the 18.10 releases, but right now, not something I want to do at this point. Neckbeard, I tried Deepin. I loved it. I especially loved how it made Light DM look. Yeah. Deepin is the most attractive desktop environment there is. Of course, there's a price to pay for, how sexy that desktop is. CPU usage is off the charts in Deepin. KDE is lighter than GNOME now. Yes, it is. But like you want something like LXDE, LXQT, XFCE, yep, or Trinity, yep. Yeah, I'd be happy in any of those as far as system resource usage. I really like LXDE. It's really not a bad desktop environment. Very light. Full desktop environment, and you can do everything in LXDE you want to get done in something like GNOME or KDE for the most part. Alright guys, let me get back to the desktop here. I'm going to kill this VM. That was a very brief look at the installation process of Gecko and a little bit of the desktop. For the most part, it is OpenSUSE. You guys have seen me review OpenSUSE on the channel. This is basically just OpenSUSE with a few extra programs installed. And with different desktop environments. SUSE, you're only getting GNOME or KDE as far as the official flavors. Gecko, you have 8 different desktop environments to choose from. Let me kill this VM. Alright. So what I was going to show, I think it was Joel earlier, was how to find the Qtile config. So first you need a package, if it's not installed on your system, and it may not be, a package called mlocate. Alright, so mlocate. In Arch, it would be sudo pacman-s mlocate, I think. I'll actually try to install it, just to make sure that's the name of the package. It is. I don't need to reinstall it, though. Debian and Ubuntu sudo apt install mlocate. You get that installed. You need to update DB, all one word, update database. Cannot open a temporary file for var lib mlocate mlocate.db because I'm not sudo. I know better than that, so sudo update db. Alright, so the database is updated. Now I can do a search for locate Qtile. And it's going to return a massively long list of every file and directory that includes the word Qtile. And right here. Look at that. User share doc qtile / default config.py. That is your qtile default config. It even tells you in the name, default config.py. Now, what I would do is, since you're already in the terminal, copy, CP for copy, that file, and then you need to move it to, in the home directory, .config / qtile / and you need to rename it. It's no longer default config.py. It just needs to be config.py. Hit enter, and it's going to copy the default config to .config / qtile config.py. Now, close that. When you navigate to .config .qtile .config.py, you can start editing it, restart qtile, and the changes will take effect. This will be your own custom config, so just start hacking away at it. I hope all that made sense. If that was confusing, anybody in the chat thought any of that was confusing, yeah, please speak up. I know it's a little strange. I know sometimes you guys don't like it, especially when I do things in the terminal. But you really have to do that in the terminal. I mean, to do that locate command, because if you don't know where the default config for qtile is on your system, how are you going to do that in the GUI? Or are you just going to open up your GUI file manager and start looking around? No, you're not going to do that. Locate, name a file is what you're going to do. If you have some idea what the file name is. Alright. I missed a little bit of chat playing around with that. Let's see. I'm wired on Budweiser here. Alan's drinking Budweiser. I personally think XFCE is beautiful. I do too. Philip Nelson, I enjoy tiling window managers. They fit me better. Yeah. I'm good in tilers. I'm good in floating window managers. I actually can go back and forth between them very easy. And that's been my pattern over the years. I'll live in a tiling window manager for a couple months. Then I'll go back to OpenBox for a couple months. Then I'll go back to another tiler. Then I'll go back to something else. You know. But I can operate in any of them. As long as they're light and fast. And you know, I can do the work I need to get done. Let's see. Of course, it's a trade-off, give and take, yeah. Yeah, you should test a distro with LXQT, says Alex. I've reviewed a few distros that use LXQt. I know I did Sabian with LXQt. I know I think I did Seduction with LXQt. That might have been LXDE. I don't remember. It's been a while. I've done a few distros with LXQt, though. Let's see, XFCE may be visually pleasing to some, but it just doesn't have the nice, clean feel. I don't mind looks that much. I'm not big on how it looks as much as the function. I mean, it's great if it happens to be attractive as well, but I'll give up, you know, some attractiveness as long as it just works. All right, my very simple OpenBox XFCE setup is clean, says Jesse. Yeah. Love OpenBox. Alan, I'm using i3 with Polybar. Yep. Mr. F said, that was easy to follow, DT. I hope so. I always get worried when I start doing things in the terminal and trying to explain, you know, because I'm thinking, well, this is going to sound complicated to somebody, and they're going to say, screw that. I'm not even going to attempt to look at qtile now if I have to go through all that trouble just to find where the default config is. And why don't they just put the default config in your home directory, in the .config directory / qtile? You know, that would actually be a valid question. The reason they don't do that, and why a lot of these tiling window managers, there's a default config somewhere in the root directory and you have to put it in your home directory to start hacking on it, is because if you haven't created a user on your system, like in a minimal distro like Arch or Gentoo, if you don't have a user, you haven't created a home directory yet, so there is no home directory to, you know, to have that .config / qtile folder in yet. So, all right, I could learn a tiling manager. I really like Polybar. Yeah, Polybar seems nice. I haven't played with it much. It seems like it's an attractive, you know, panel. But Seduction is XFCE. You running Seduction XFC? I'm not sure if I've looked at that one on the channel. I've done Seduction 2 or 3 times on the channel. I know I did LXDE or LXQT for Seduction on the channel. Not sure which one. It's been a while. See, Maverick says, DT, I'm truly afraid of Microsoft now. I think they want the exclusive rights to the underlying Linux kernels that powers all popular OSs, that powers both tablets and desktops. No, they're not getting any of that. Maverick says, I think that's their end game. Yeah, they can't have the kernel, though. The Linux kernel is open source. I mean, it's GPL. Which means the minute Microsoft wanted to do something with that kernel, well, I mean, it's still open source. I've got it, you've got it. We take it, fork it, create a different kernel, call it another name if we need to. Just keep going. The thing with free and open source software, you know, Microsoft can't buy it. They can buy companies behind those free and open source projects, but they can't buy the software itself. Yeah, I like using a regular desktop environment than installing a tiling window manager, so I choose one or the other at the login. Yeah, I usually install at least 2 window managers on every machine, just in case I mess something up. Like I play around with my Qtile config and mess something up and I can't log into Qtile for some reason. Well, I have that OpenBox session or Xmonad session or i3 session or whatever else I have on the machine to log into to try to fix my Qtile session. So, best thing about Linux is that dopamine rush when things work. Yep. Simple is beautiful in a world of complexities. I've been reading about how you can make a binary package repo on a machine to compile all the binaries for Gen 2 and then install them to another machine. So no compiling. If you want to do Gen 2 without compiling, Sabian, Calculate, Redcore. Try some of those. Sabian in particular is really nice. Calculate's good too. Redcore doesn't have very many mirrors. I think they only have 2 or 3 mirrors. Might be a problem. Let's see. Bill Gates, I hope you review my Windows again, dear Derek. My Windows review was not a very positive review, Bill. But when Windows 11 comes out, I'm sure I'll take a look at it on the channel. It'll be another April 1st review, like Windows 10 was. A lot of people were confused about that that Windows review I did on April 1st. They were like, because it wasn't, it was a serious review, and people were like, I don't understand. Is it an April Fool's joke or what's going on here? You know, it was just a review. I did Windows 10, a review of Windows 10 on April 1st. And it was a legit review by a brand new Windows user. I've never used Windows as far as anything past XP. I haven't been a Windows user in 10 years. So don't know anything about Windows 10. Don't know about the installation process, any of the programs installed. So I went into that thing as a Windows noob. And you guys got my reaction of it. It wasn't a good one for the most part. At least on your machines with little RAM and CPU. Well, what are we doing? I've been reading about how you can make a... Oh, okay. Still talking about the Gen 2 binaries? Yeah. What was your first Linux distro? If you're asking me, Ubuntu. It was... I think the first one I ever tried was 804. And within a year, I think I was living in Linux full time. And then I just never went back to Windows. 804 was a LTS release. It was a Hardy Heron. It included one of the best default Ubuntu wallpapers ever. You guys, let me see if I can actually pull it up. This is actually worth searching for. You guys that weren't around back then. The Ubuntu wallpapers, let's see. Ubuntu, I'm going to do a quick search here. Ubuntu Hardy Heron. This wallpaper here with the bird. Was just great. This was back when Ubuntu was very brown. They didn't start doing the purple theming until I think 1004. So 804 and all that was these kind of earthy brown colors. But this wallpaper, the Hardy Heron wallpaper, was just gorgeous. I still love that wallpaper. I'd put that wallpaper on my machines today. Yeah, my first distro says Hobo was Slackware, early 90s. Haven't used it since the 90s, I don't think. Yeah. You didn't have a lot of options in the early 90s either. Lamarck, LOL, Mr. F, LMAO. Philip, I like compiling because I can choose options and make the software exactly the way you want. Yeah, that is the advantage. My first was Peppermint, then Manjaro, now Pure Arch. Alan Rocco. Very cool. My first was Slitaz, then Triskel. Wow, you're on Triskel. That is an official free distro. I mean, that the Free Software Foundation gives it their blessing. Triskel GNU/Linux. Huh. Yeah, the Arch build system basically gives you portage for Arch. Yep. My first distro was Debian Jessie, says Jonathan Clark. Yeah, Debian's nice. Love Debian stable. Love messing with random distros, says Mr. F. Yeah, very brown and very orange for the wallpaper. Yeah, was the purple when Unity came along? No. No, they switched to purple in 10.04, but that was still the old GNOME 2 desktop. Unity didn't come around for another year after that. 11.04 was the very first Unity. Let's see. DT, you should try for fun. Try Satanic Ubuntu. Yeah, but is it even developed anymore? I remember it from the past, but yeah, sorry to get off topic, DT. Yeah, once they're non-GPL, Apple, Samsung, and Google have to pay royalties to have any code used in the underlying. Yeah. After the Hannah Montana review, everything is possible. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream in another couple minutes. We've been going about an hour and a half here. Let's see, Justin Bieber Linux is a good choice. Is there really a Justin Bieber Linux? If so, I might have to check that one out. I did Hannah. Might as well do Justin too. Let's see, my first was Ubuntu, then Elementary, OpenSUSE, now Manjaro. Yeah, all solid distros. Great distros. We have so many good distros, though. Yeah. Alan Rocco, I guess about Bieber. Hell yeah. Reflip says, have a good night. Good night, Flip. Glad you could join us. Yep. Have a great night, DT, says Jonathan. Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Always good to see you. Thank you, Mr. DistroTube, for your informative videos. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Aruet. Hope I pronounced that right. Martel. Philip. Yes. Word, DT. You rock, man. Yeah. Bieber Ubuntu. Yeah. Bieber Ubuntu. I guess. Is it Ubuntu based? My first distro, Red Hat 9. Oh, very cool. All right. Let me go ahead and shut down the stream here, guys. I want to thank everybody that joined the stream tonight. You guys rock. Thanks for hanging out with me while I did this very quick install and review of, this first look anyway of Gecko Linux 150, the rolling edition with Cinnamon. Still in the chat, we've got Alan, Aruet, Syriac, Hobo, Joel, Jonathan, Lamarck, Mark, Maverick, Mr. F, Philip, and Reflipped. And of course, thanks to everybody that was here earlier and couldn't stay around till the end. And before we go, I do need to give a shout out to my patrons. A special thanks to all my Patreon supporters: David, Carlos, Nick, Daniel, Brian, Leor, AK, Ron, Keith, Dan, Michael, Tony, Bruno, David, Mike, Silvio, Omar, Mark, Mr. Neely Pops, John, Carl, Greg, Rob, Matt, Christian, Tiedemann, Stephen Z, Eduardo, Alex, Jake, Benjamin, Stephen B, Marcus, Interceptor, Tabella, and Humade. Appreciate you guys. You guys help make this show possible. Peace, guys.